So welcome to this comprehensive guide. This tutorial will help you to leverage your technical expertise to excel in technical writing. By the end of this video, you'll be able to understand the skills needed to create a clear, concise, and effective documentation. Moving forward, you'll be able to understand the purpose and benefits of technical writing, as well as why developers make great technical writers. You will also understand the value of technical writing skills and understanding the basics of documentation standards. I'll also take you an overview of the documentation tools and how you can effectively collaborate and get feedback. And lastly, we shall look at a few of the project management tools that you might need to use if you're starting out into technical writing. So let's start up with the first thing. Why do you think that developers make great technical writers? I'll give you 5 seconds to write a comment and tell me why you think developers really make great technical writers. So now, write down your comment and why you think you as a developer would make a great technical writer. Before I come up to my reasons, developers have a unique advantage when it comes to technical writing, and here is why. Developers have very in-depth technical knowledge. You have a profound understanding of complex systems, software, and technologies. This technical expertise alone will enable you to comprehend and explain details accurately and effectively. Also, your familiarity with coding, debugging, and software architecture will give you a strong foundation to create documentation. Secondly, as a developer, you know you're already a problem solver. This ability that you develop daily as you're coding translates well into technical writing. You can be able to break down complex problems into manageable parts, which is essential for creating logical documentation. This skill will help you in instructing content in a way that guides a reader step by step through processes and concepts. Now, developers, you're already familiar with various development documentation tools, which streamlines the process of creating and maintaining documentation. You are comfortable with using version control like Git, which is also very interesting when you're making technical documentation. Also, I'm so sure that if you're a developer, you have experience using IDEs or code editors, text editors, and other software tools that will make it easier to learn and utilize specialized documentation tools. Having been end users of documentation yourself as a developer, because I'm pretty sure that you read documentation of the technologies you use, I am so sure that you understand the needs and the pain points that you go through when you're reading through these documentations. So this perspective will allow you to create documentation that is truly helpful, addressing a common question and providing clear instructions. As a developer, you also have the ability to translate technical jargon. This ability is important because you need to communicate information to non-technical stakeholders or users. So you need to ensure that the documentation is both accurate and accessible and also easy to understand. Naturally, a developer is supposed to be very attentive to detail. So this applies not only to coding, but also when you face a single error in coding, this can cause significant issue. So you need to pay attention. The same attention you pay to your coding, to your code, is the same attention that is needed in technical writing. If you have the skill, texting, and you know how to spot certain errors in coding, you can do the same in documentation, so that this documentation is free from mistakes. And this attention to detail helps in the overall quality and reliability of the documentation. Continuous learning. The tech industry is constantly evolving and developers are accustomed to always learning, keeping up with new technologies, best practices, etc. This level of adaptability is beneficial in technical writing because you're going to stay current with the latest tools, trends, methodologies, and also you can quickly learn and integrate new information into the documentation processes. One important thing is contribution to open source. Many developers contribute to open source. Please, if you don't contribute to open source, I advise that you start right now. This normally involves writing, maintaining documentation, also coding itself. This experience not only improves your writing skills, but also demonstrates your ability to communicate within a diverse audience, which is not only local but also global. What is the value of technical writing? When you acquire technical writing skills, it offers a lot of benefits. For example, improved communication, where you're able to communicate complex information clearly. You're able to develop your career. Many companies nowadays value employees who can create clear documentation. This skill can lead to roles such as technical writer, documentation specialist, or even managerial positions where communication is crucial. It's often easier for you to move and find roles that require documentation such as product management, training, and customer support. Contribution to open source. I can assure you that you can make significant contributions to open source projects, making them more accessible and usable for others with clear documentation. This will help new contributors understand the project, reduce the learning curve, increase community engagement. Your contributions can enhance your reputation in the tech community, and this might lead to networking, collaboration, and which will land you a number of opportunities. Problem solving. This is one of the values of technical writing, because if you're someone who is clear and well organized, you can greatly increase productivity and efficiency within a team or organization. And also, when your documentation is easy to understand, team members can quickly find the information they need. This leads to faster development cycles, fewer errors, and also more streamlined workflow. Besides that, you can share your knowledge and preservation. Good documentation ensures that valuable knowledge is preserved and easily accessible. This is particularly important in fast-paced environments where team members might change or roles might leave a company. Even your own documentation will save you sometimes. We have heard stories of someone who wrote a documentation 10 years ago and always goes back even now to go back to that documentation. So this is what we call preservation. Another value of documentation is building trust with users and clients. When users can rely on your documentation to understand and use your product effectively, they are more likely to have a positive experience and recommend your product to others. This trust is vital for customer satisfaction and also long-term success. Personal growth and professional growth. When you improve your technical writing skills, this will contribute to both your personal and professional growth. Writing effectively will help you think critically, communicate ideas, and present information. The process of writing can help you deepen your understanding of technical subjects and knowledge, and also your expertise. So how can you become proficient in technical writing? Here are some ways you can become proficient in technical writing. I'll start by practice. Everyone says practice makes perfect. You have to write consistently to improve your skills. You can start writing blogs, tutorials, or contributing to open source. You can set a dedicated time each week for your writing practice. I remember when I started my writing journey, I would wake up at 5 a.m. and I'll write during that time. By 7 a.m., I would have completed one blog, which is like about 5 minutes read. So depending on what works for you, start practicing. Study existing documentation. Look at the technologies you use. For example, when you look at React documentation, look well how they are streamlined, how their projects are, best practices, and identify what makes these documents effective. Things like clarity, structure, and also detail. Feel free to take courses and workshops. There are so many online courses on technical writing. Check out Coursera, Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, Allison. Take a course, which normally is between 2 to 3 hours long, and understand the basics of technical writing. Take your time to read books on technical writing. I'll recommend a book called The Elements of Style by Strang White. Technical Writing 101. Just go to Google and search for those books and you'll be able to find them. Study the style guides specific to your field or industry. In this case, we are in the developer industry, that is the software industry. Feel free to join writing communities, both online and offline. Communities like Write the Docs, there are Twitter communities that are tailored for technical writers, or relevant forums to connect with other technical writers. Participating in these discussions and sharing your work will help you seek feedback from peers as well. Speaking of feedback, you can ask for feedback from peers, mentors, or colleagues on your writing. Use constructive criticism to identify areas and improvements to refine your writing skills. As you continue writing, be sure that you improve your technical knowledge. Be it the technologies you're using, the tools you're using. Experiment with the tools and software, stay current with industry trends and advancements to ensure your writing remains relevant and accurate. Get familiar with documentation tools like Markdown, LaTeX, platforms like Gitbook, Confluence, Read the Docs. Also practice using version control like Git to manage documentation and changes effectively. Make sure that you develop the art of being attentive to every single detail. Practice proofreading and editing to eliminate any error and improve clarity in your documentation. Use tools like Grammarly or ProWriting Aid to enhance your writing quality. Practice writing for various audiences like beginners or front-end developers. If you're a full-stack developer, you can say, let me write about some front-end things. Let me also write about some APIs. Let me also write some back-end. Experiment with different audience, and then you can later niche down to maybe one specific topic that you enjoy writing about. Also tailor your writing style and language to meet the needs and understand each audience when you try out this. So work on real projects. If you see some of these documentations, normally they are how to do something, how to build this, how to create this. Volunteer to write or update documentation for open source projects or local organizations. Also take in some freelance writing projects to gain practical experience and build a portfolio. This will take us to building a portfolio. Your portfolio is basically the collection of the best work that you can show to someone to show them that you can actually write. This can include diverse examples like user manuals, API documentation, and also tutorials. Keep being organized. Develop a system for organizing your writing projects, research, notes, project management tools like Trello, Notion to keep track of everything that you're writing about and also deadlines. Be sure that you're always updated on best practices. Follow blogs, forums, and social media channels on the topics that you are interested about writing. Attend conferences and meetups to learn from experienced technical writers and also network with these people. Learn user experience principles. This will help you create user-friendly documentation that will help your readers' experience. Also conduct usability testing on your documentation to gather feedback and make improvements. Write clear and concise content. Focus on clarity in your writing. Avoid unnecessary jargon and complex sentences that is hard to read. And I always say use active voice and straightforward language to make your content easy to read and understand. So I'll take you through how you can familiarize yourself with documentation standards. Be sure that you're able to research industry standards. Identify documentation standards that are prevalent in your industry or field. This can include standards set by organizations like IEEE, ISO, or specific bodies. Read documentation guides for official guides or manuals that outline these standards, and the documents provide detailed instructions by example. Also, take your time to study well-established projects like Django, React, Kubernetes. These examples have extensive and well-maintained documentation that often follows strict standards. Take your time and identify these patterns. Look for common patterns in the structure, the language, formatting, and the way information is presented. Use style guides like the Microsoft Manual of Style, Google Developer Documentation Style Guide, or IBM Style Guide. If your organization or project doesn't have a specific style guide, consider creating one based on the best practices you've learned. Participate in documentation communities. This can be forums like Write the Docs. Actually, Write the Docs is hosting a conference for technical writers in Australia. I'll link it in the description. These communities will discuss best practices, standards, common challenges in technical writing. Attend these conferences and events. They even feature talks and workshops on documentation standards and best practices. Trust me, you will learn a lot. Take your time and learn from peers. Seek feedback. Always ask for feedback even before you publish. Have someone who is able to look through your documentation and give you positive or negative criticism, and you can always improve. Find a mentor who is experienced in technical writing and documentation standards. They can guide you through the processes of creating high quality documentation. Previously, we looked at the different types of documentation. Please be sure you understand each of those types. Study the structures, user manuals, understand how they address end user needs, API documentation, technical specifications, blogs and tutorials. Understand each of these and how to approach them. Practice writing and review documentation. The more you write, the more comfortable you will become with the standards and expectations. Also, feel free to review others' work, critically review the documentation written by others. This can help you identify best practices and areas for improvement in your own writing. We mentioned documentation tools like Markdown, LaTeX, Google Docs, Word, whatever. These tools often support standard documentation practices and also formatting. Look through documentation platforms like Gitbook, Read the Docs, Confluence, and others that enforce certain standards. Be sure you also follow version control best practices to manage changes in your documentation. This will help you maintain a history of changes to ensure consistency. Engage in pull requests and code reviews for documentation. This process will encourage you to write to a specific standard and be collaborative. And always stay updated. If you're interested in technical writing, stay updated, follow relevant blogs, news sites, official publications. Consider also enrolling in courses, certifications that focus on technical writing. So you need to also deepen your technical knowledge as you write documentation. And here is how. If you're writing about a programming language, for example, Python, you will be willingly able to learn new things in Python. You're going to be able to understand new tricks in Python. The more you write, the more you learn, and the more you understand, and the more you'll get better. You'll also be able to master most of the development tools like IDEs, version control, CI/CD, pipelines, whatsoever. Your technical knowledge will improve in that you will understand methodologies like Agile, Scrum, DevOps to write relevant documentation. Ensure clarity and accuracy in your writing. This will help improve your attention to detail. Make sure you develop proofreading skills to catch errors and improve clarity. Be consistent in terminology and formatting throughout your documentation. And use tools like Grammarly always. Break down technical jargon into easy to understand terms, and then also be aware of the audience you're writing a particular document or guide to, and then also always take feedback. So you need to build experience with documentation tools. So I mentioned tools like Markdown and LaTeX. Please, if you're not sure of how this works, I'll be glad to make how-to documentation on each of these tools so that you have an idea of how they work. Also, be sure you use documentation platforms like Gitbook, Confluence, etc. Also, be sure you have understanding of Git, which is mostly used by developers. If you're a developer at this point, I'm so sure that you have an idea of what Git is. So, user-centric perspective basically is a focus on you creating user-friendly documentation. This will include empathy for whoever is going to read your documentation, and then usability testing, which will help users ensure that your documentation is clear and also helpful, and then feedback loops, which will help you establish channels for continuous user feedback to improve your documentation. Also, you need to be able to collaborate and get feedback so that you're able to work effectively with others to enhance your documentation. So, interdisciplinary collaboration, this is normally collaborating with developers, QA teams, and product managers to gather comprehensive information. And then you can have peer reviews where you regularly participate in peer reviews to improve the quality of your work, and then always continuously improve. Use feedback to iterate and also help improve your documentation. So efficiently manage your documentation projects, and don't forget the technical writing process that I posted in the previous video, which normally involves the planning, where you can outline your documentation plans, timeline, etc. It will help you stay organized, and then you can track progress and use project management tools like Jira, Trello. Personally, I use a lot of Google Sheets, also can help. Start with one while you start, and then feel free to publish, and then manage your workflow from drafting to final publication, and also ensure timely delivery. Now, in technical writing, you need to stay relevant in this tech landscape. So you have to be current, keep up with the latest technology, trends, and also writing practices. Attend workshops, participate in writing and tech workshops to improve your skills. I don't know how I can stress this enough, but also be sure that you engage with communities and relevant forums. So after watching this video and you have decided that, okay, I need to get started with writing, here is some advice for you. Please start small. Begin with blogging or contributing to open source documentation to gain some experience. If you're skilled in HTML or CSS, start writing about these simple HTML or CSS guides. For example, how to create a button in HTML, how to create animated CAD in CSS, using HTML and CSS, those small things. Just start small. It doesn't have to be so hectic. And then build a portfolio. Use platforms like Hashnode or even GitHub, Dev.to to showcase your work. Seek mentorship if you're not sure or if you're stuck. Be sure that you're able to ask for help. Personally, I love helping out people. So be sure that you leave a comment below if you need help. And here are some resources for you to begin. You can start doing online courses. Just go to Coursera or Udemy or YouTube and just look for some technical writing courses in the search bar, and then you'll be able to have some courses on. And then read some books. These are some of the books I recommend. Be sure that you check them out, and then also join communities. So there are Twitter communities. If you're on Twitter, be sure that you follow me on Twitter. I'm in some community for technical writing. You need to be part of that community. So thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, be sure that you write it in the comments or tweet your question at Fenicodes on Twitter, and then LinkedIn, Feninyayich. Feel free to send in your questions. The next steps for you is I encourage you to start writing and improve your skills today if you're a developer. If you're shy about posting, I'll be glad to review a number of your articles before you publish them, and I am ready to mentor you. Thank you so much. See you in another one.